Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shaun here from Zoobox. In today's movie review, we're going to be talking about an old movie. Oh, yeah, an even older movie than we did the other day. We're going to be talking about 1942's I Married a Witch, directed by Rene, Clair. Stars Frederick March, Veronica Lake, Robert Benchley. The synopsis is a beautiful 17th century witch returns to life to plague politician Wallace Woolley, descendant of her persecutor. So this is an interesting movie. I'd never seen it before. This is another first time watch. Sometimes what I do, I just watch random movies. Like, I'll just be like, oh, I Married a Witch. Okay, go. This is an hour and 17 minutes. I was like, perfect. I had about an hour and 20 minutes extra this morning. My kid got up really early, making him breakfast. We're hanging out. I was like, let's put on I Married a Witch. Let's just see what it is. And come to find out, this is actually kind of one of the precursors to the television show Bewitched. This was a big point of inspiration for the creator of Bewitched. And as soon as the movie started, I was like, oh, this feels a lot like Bewitched. Not in a way that you might expect at first, though. Because it has kind of an interesting framing device where it goes back through the history of the Woolley family. The main character, Wallace Woolley, he's like a up-and-coming politician. And they go back to see him all the way up, his family all the way to the Pilgrim times. And then there's been like kind of a curse on his family of sorts, and they have to excise a witch from the village, and his ancestor is the one that puts the final blow because he was going to marry this woman. And he accuses her of being a witch, and her and her father, and they bury them under a tree because a tree's roots will contain the spirit of the witch. They won't be able to escape. And then, 270 years later, lightning bolt hits that tree, releases the spirits of this witch and her father, and they come to kind of try to, I guess, visit vengeance or visit something upon this new Woolley, Wallace Woolley. What a name! And then it's kind of just continues on like it's a kind of a comedy. It's kind of a romantic comedy, and it's like I like watching these older romantic comedies because comedies, out of all of the things, all the different kind of genres, are very tied to when they're made. Because they're there for immediate satisfaction, right? I mean, not granted, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's always things that kind of transcend the culture of the time, whatever. This would not be one of them. It feels very much like a movie made in 1942. It's very innocent. There's a little bit of innuendo here and there, but it's a very innocent kind of movie. The most risque thing about it is its overt kind of nods to witchcraft. I mean, like, witches ain't all bad. Even though one of them, they're locked up in a fucking bourbon jar up on their mantle. There's a lot of wacky stuff in here. But not as wacky as I thought. And one of the weirder things about the movie is it takes place over about like a 48-hour time period. Like, so much happens. So this guy, this politician, Wallace Woolley, it's on the eve of an election, and he's going to get married like that, or the day before the election. He's supposed to get married on the eve of his election to kind of bolster him up in the public eye, because then reporters can come, they can report on it being married and put his name in people's minds when they go to the voting booth. And so it's this whole thing, and his wife, his fiance, is like a shrew. She's like very cold. She has to be reminded to smile. She's very matter of fact. And she's not even in the movie very much, honestly. She's only in a couple scenes, and it's just really funny. And then the witch lady comes along, Veronica Lake, and she is smitten with him. They fall in love like immediately, and then he calls off his marriage and all that good stuff, and they get married right away. Right away. So it's just a weird kind of structure. It feels very much like a teleplay. Like, this feels like it could have been just like a play. Like, you would go see a comedy stage play. That's what it felt like. Not in a bad way necessarily. The performances, for what they are, even outside of the context of time, they're not bad. Veronica Lake is a gorgeous woman. So if you're all into that kind of stuff, looking at gorgeous ladies, you got that to deal with. Doing some of the research, it was funny. Like, Veronica Lake apparently was a very sassy lady. Like, a lot of people had trouble working with her. So actually, her co-star Frederick March, who plays Wallace Woolley, he hated her. They hated each other. Apparently, there's a scene where he has to carry her up like a flight of stairs. So she got the crew to get her like a 40-pound like weights to wear around her waist to make him feel like a dick. Like just shit like that. Just tons of sassiness, you know. It was really funny, but apparently it kind of ended up hurting her in the long term of her career because she continued to have problems with directors, continued to have problems with actors, and she kind of, I mean, if you look at her filmography in the 40s, there's like 15 movies, and then it just drops off to just a few up until she dies in the 70s. So there's that interesting little behind the scenes stuff. But I can't say, like, you know, like I said, these things are so tied to the time that they're made in, so they're interesting. They're almost like the most historical of historical film artifacts. They're comedies. To kind of go back and see how things are operated. Because this is like a social comedy. It's about kind of lifestyle and love and marriage. It's not kind of like the Three Stooges or Laurel and Hardy. Those are kind of more universal because everybody likes seeing an idiot get hit in the face with a frying pan or trip over something or whatever. Those things kind of can endure. The slapstick stuff can endure a little bit more than things that are more tied to the social mores and stylings of the era, you know? And this is one of those movies. It very much feels, it would have been like the Judd Apatow movie. It would have been the King of Staten Island of 1942, you know? That might be a little hyperbolic. I can't stand fucking Judd Apatow though. Whatever. But yeah, so it's definitely one of those kind of examples. And well, I think like the cast is very charming. Like I said, Veronica Lake is pretty good. Frederick March is really good. The guy who plays the witch father is pretty entertaining. They're very charming too, even if the jokes kind of don't land. And it's not even that they don't land and you get them. You're just like, but it's just not that funny. It just is like, oh, whatever. But they're very charming, and they actually have good chemistry, which is why I brought up that they didn't actually like each other, because it's surprising how well they played off of each other. And you do kind of buy into the idea that they would kind of just immediately fall for each other and get married. That was, you know, that actually worked pretty well. Better than you would think, right? Just based on like a synopsis of the story. But the most interesting thing to me is definitely seeing the DNA of Bewitched. I grew up watching Bewitched. I watched reruns like every morning of Bewitched back in the day before like TV Land and everything too. So I was like up at, you know, network television would have these shows on at like 6 a.m. Used to be watched like Bewitched, Three's Company, just a mishmash of all those older sitcoms used to play during like the dead times, right? You'd have your morning news and then sitcoms would play for a couple hours before like the game shows and talk shows came on. And so I always had kind of an affinity for it. So it was interesting to see where it came from. And I'm surprised people weren't more up in arms. I was looking around to see if this had some sort of controversy or if it was mired in anything, just because of how it deals with witchcraft. Because it doesn't deal with it in like a cartoony Halloween costume sense, if you know what I mean. They're much more just like real people, and they have they have definitely a demonic allegiance. They make reference to it. It's kind of weird. So, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see anybody really complaining or anything that made it to 2020. Any kind of notices that you would have found, because I looked at the trivia, like the Wikipedia, I couldn't find anything. I thought that was interesting. And maybe it's just because it's so light. It's such a light movie. I mean, I had to do this video today because I was like, I'm going to forget this. And it's not that it's bad or anything. It's not really bad. It's just like, it's not gonna appease a modern audience. I mean, unless you're just an old film buff, you know, or you're just a film fan like myself. Like watching something like this to me is to watch it for posterity. It's for a point of reference. Now I understand a little bit better, like the comedy stylings of the time and the trajectory of them. You know, that's what I think about it in a historical sense, and that's why I enjoy it. You know, some of the times you watch old movies, it's like reading a chapter of a history book. You learn a little bit about the time it was made, and it can be interesting. So in that, like, I don't feel like I wasted my time. I don't think a lot of the people that watch these videos are gonna like I Married a Witch. I don't think you guys. This is not gonna be for you. If you got HBO Max, it's on there. Yeah, give it Give it a spin. Maybe you'll love it. I don't know. Something tells me you're not going to be into a fantasy romantic comedy from 1942, that doesn't have Laurel and Hardy or fucking Abbott and Costello. I think some of you would probably like Abbott and Costello. I mean, come on, right? I got to watch those, the Abbott and Costello, the Universal monster movie, Abbott and Costello's. I have not seen those in a long time. I should watch them. But anyways, yeah, not much else to say. I got 10 minutes out of I Married a Witch. That's not bad. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you would like to know more about Zoobox, you want to keep up with these videos, you can subscribe, like, hit the bell. There's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, and for my personal Twitter. And also, if you'd like to see me talk about anything in particular, anything specific in these kind of short form daily videos, you let me know. Leave a comment, and I will put it on the list. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Goodbye.